Hi everyone. As you can see by the title of this video, welcome to a tier list. I've wanted to do a tier list for a while. I was thinking of doing one for taste testers, but tastes change over time and well, I'm sure my opinions on these movies would change a year from now, but the problem with that is I think a lot of them aren't too memorable, so we'll see if I could even do this tier list a year from now. Anyways, I saw about 35 movies at a Regal cinema or two over the year. And this captures the 24 of them or so that I remember watching at least a little bit. And I was thinking we could rank them. So we have 6 tiers. We have Please Don't, which is basically do whatever you can to avoid this film. I'd rather schedule a dentist appointment. I know I used that joke from the Crawdads video, but well, you can probably guess what tier that's going into. Stream It is movies that I guess you could watch, but it's definitely not worth paying all the money to see them in theaters. Needs popcorn. We're getting a little better. The movie itself is not enough to be worth the experience. You have to appreciate all the other things that the cinema can offer, and then maybe you can get something out of the whole thing. Decent speaks for itself. We know what that means. See it again. Yeah. It's so good that you'd like to see it again. Wow. Poetic. And then, of course, the S tier, the classic, in this case, excellent. So, I have some pictures, some more comedic than others. You could maybe guess what some of these are. Other ones aren't as obvious, but we're just going to go from the start. And we have Black Adam, and this doesn't really show up well when I put it into the tiers. Like, it just blends in. But that's okay. So anyways, this isn't necessarily where I'm thinking it's going. I didn't write down any notes for this video. This is completely candid. Nothing planned out like that. So Black Adam, I was looking forward to it quite a bit because DC has been on a roll lately. Ever since Birds of Prey, when you're all the way at the bottom, there's only one way, and that's up. And I will give it that. It is better than Birds of Prey, but I don't know if that's saying much. So, Black Adam, let's see. I enjoyed the introduction of the character. I thought he was menacing, had a good background. I thought Dr. Fate was handled pretty interestingly. The Atom and the other character that were so insignificant I don't remember the names of. They were all right as side characters, and I don't have any issues per se with most of the characters. There's only one big gripe I have with this film that I think really removes my desire to see it again, and that's how they handle the third act. So many movies nowadays can struggle on one of three phases: the intro, the rising action, or the conclusion. And in this case, I would say they really fell short on the final act. They had just a random CGI villain that didn't really mean much to the larger scope of the characters, and then it just wasn't really that climactic considering what they were building towards. Otherwise, it's a fine film. It's I would recommend you going out of the way to see it now that it's on streaming platforms. That being said, I don't think it deserves to go as low as Stream It. I think maybe the top of Needs Popcorn or somewhere indecent is fine because I did enjoy it. And that's another thing. How am I rating these? Well, I'm going to base it on my enjoyment of the films and, well, how memorable it was to me. And Well, you'll see as we go on, but to contrast, starkly contrast Black Adam, you might be able to guess what this film is. Oh, wow, it's a cat. It's an animated cat. It's Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. Yeah. Yeah, that's a great animated film. Didn't have much competition this year. What? Bad Guys, Rise of Gru, maybe something else, Strange World. I didn't even bother seeing that. But this is a great film because it develops its characters well. Even the side characters, like the three bears and Goldie, they get their own arc, and it's really wholesome. You have I saw it a couple times actually, so we'll probably at least see it again. The second time I saw it, I remember the comedy was fairly effective. The crew I went with really appreciated the moral cricket. So there's a lot of memorable characters, and then the actual story behind it. I was worried when I saw the trailer. I was like, oh, this seems really simple. You're just chasing after a MacGuffin or just a plot device to drive the whole story. And frankly, it's hard to write movies and stories another way if it's just character driven. But they emphasized the characters and they handled the whole last wish thing very well. And I won't go too in depth into it because I don't want to spoil things for any of these movies, frankly. But they built up a menacing villain, and there was great payoff. I will say, if you've seen this one and Black Adam, to make a comparison, imagine the Jack Horner, if you've seen the film, the guy who sticks his thumb in pies. If he was the only villain in that film, and that was the final battle, and there was no Lobo, no wolf. Well, that's kind of how the end of Black Adam felt. I won't say much more on that, but I will put Puss in Boots: The Last Wish tentatively in see it again for room to grow. We'll see. Insert Bach Sonata. Da-da-da. Nah. So this is where the Crawdad sings. And yes, I did some research. Technically, blue lobsters are not crawdads. They're not crawfish. Oh, well, woohoo. It's supposed to be a joke. So this film, I've made a video on it already. Surprisingly, did not really go that well. Well, in character with the movie itself. The video had a wacky aspect ratio, so I'll put a card up for that in the top right corner. But I've already said a lot about this. The characters, everything did not really flow well with me. It didn't seem realistic the way they reacted. And then the ending, how it was revealed, did not really make sense. Like, once again, I won't spoil anything, but out of all the films I saw this year, there's never been a film more like this where I'm like, why am I here? There could be so many better ways I could be spending my time. And apparently the book is a lot better, and that's not really a surprise. That's a typical trait. Movies struggle to interpret books properly. But this movie doesn't deserve any more of our thoughts, our time, and it's time to move on, right? So, moving on, we have Sonic 2. And looking at this is the first film on this list that I've been really unsure where to put it on the tiers. Because I do remember enjoying it quite a bit, but there was still some things I'm like, this could be improved, but it's better than it needs to be for the kids demographic. Well, things that I can remember, this came out in April. The CGI was great. They continued the great adaptation, because you may remember the original trailer for the Sonic 1 movie that really did not meet fans' expectations, to say the least. They built they started building a good universe, introducing Knuckles. And there was some fun moments. And of course, Eggman, played by an excellent actor, great interpretation. I remember now the gripe I have with this. The people. You don't need the people in this movie, except Eggman. You don't need that whole side story about the wedding. Yeah, it's a little bit funny, but it really doesn't help the story much at all. So you could remove that. It's a fun film. I don't think it belongs in See It Again. But if Sonic 3 were to come out, I think inevitably I would see it again. Oh boy. They're putting a lot of good films at the front of these tiers. Moving on. Do you know what this is? If you don't, you really should. This is Everything Everywhere All at Once. And I don't have to even debate where to put this. This belongs in the excellent category. It is the superior multiverse film. Speaking of which, not all of the pictures are in this tiers. That's a little bit bizarre. You guys are going to see behind the scenes real quick. I need to edit this or make a new one. You know what? All right. This is good. We're back. I think. I am gonna believe we're back. So I did this terrible thing where I forgot to add Blacklight to the list. I know. It's adored by all moviegoers of the world. But we will get there. So, see what I did there? With this next one? It's a Panther. It's a Carolina. No, it's Black Panther 2. Oh boy. This is the make or break for my career. Where I place this. People will hold it against me my whole life. Well, here's the thing. I enjoyed the film. I thought it was the second most beautiful film to do with water of the year. And I'm not really the biggest fan of the MCU anymore, but if I was to try to remove that bias, I would say I enjoyed this film. I thought for 2/3 of the movie that the villain, Namor, was pretty good. I felt like, maybe it wouldn't be such a bad thing to just keep Ironheart or the scientist from the village, the Wakandan village school, that's MIT. Yeah, they could probably keep her in Wakanda, and that shouldn't really be a problem from Namor's sake. It is a problem from the military, and I am saying a lot more of plot details about this film, and that's not a reflection that I remember it very well. It's just that I saw it recently. You asked me to make this video a year from now, I'm just going to be able to say, yeah, I remember water. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I have no major complaints, but I'm not going to say it's excellent. I don't remember. I don't think I gave Everything Everywhere All at Once all of its credit before I realized that I was missing Blacklight from the list. So I'll go back into that for a little while. I know this is going to be my longest video in years, probably. Well, I don't have Monster Jam videos to upload. This is what you get. But Everything Everywhere All at Once. Strange to say that it's the better multiverse film of the year. Why is it strange? Well, it's strange that such a specific genre took over the year. If I had a nickel for every time they made a multiverse movie, I'd have two, which is not a lot, but it's strange it happened twice, right? So, this film is unpredictable, wacky, but it's always extremely intriguing, especially with the score. Oh, it's a pity. In all this time so far, I haven't mentioned any of the soundtracks, but, well, this is the first one that really stands out. There's this action-packed scene in slow motion, and you hear Debussy's Clair de Lune playing, and it's just like, wow. This is what movies should be more about. Just the absurdity, but always promoting great storytelling and intrigue. And just the creativeness of that film is something I think we can all strive for as to be better personally. But unfortunately, not every film can live up to everything everywhere all at once. But it could be worse. Coming up next, we have Easter Sunday. It's a family comedy. And I was talking with a friend about this once. If it was just a little more careful with its dialogue, I think it could be up there with some of the classics. Like, oh, when you're with family for a holiday, oh, let's turn on the TV, let's put on Easter Sunday. Oh, it has some good elements to it, but it's fairly contrived, to be honest. It's kind of cringe at times. But oh, it doesn't deserve to be in Needs Popcorn because it's still enjoyable enough. I'm going to put it in decent. I still think, ooh, would I rather see a 3-hour drawn-out action film in a universe that I could care less about, or Easter Sunday? There we go. We'll see. Subject to change, right? Well, the Panthers are probably proud that they don't usually get this high on the tier list. So we're not that type of Panthers. We're talking football. But anyways, talk about a disappointment transition from the NFC South. We have Lightyear, the inferior animated film of the year. Imagine that. DreamWorks is one up on Pixar this year. Okay. Toy Story 3. Great. Great conclusion. Toy Story 4. Unnecessary. Lightyear. Unnecessary. This came out in like June or something, and yes. All I remember is Taika Waititi was in it before he kind of blew his career with another film coming up soon on this list. But, okay. The plot was alright. The characters did not really synergize well with one another, in my opinion. I felt like it was a story that simply did not need to be told. And they didn't really ever convince me that it'd be worth it. Oh! And I remember, this is another film where the third act really struggled. Kind of like Black Adam, or episode 6 of Loki, in my opinion. So, I will say, it's I guess, worth seeing if you're on a plane ride for hours, or if you're stranded on an island, but you have precisely enough time or energy left on your device, your electronic device, to be able to watch that film. I would rather suggest, though, that you call for help. And I think this movie could use some help. Alright, moving on to a movie that doesn't need as much help, I would say. We have Bullet Train. I really enjoyed Bullet Train. Very action-packed. No, I would say it would go up to see it again, because I would happily watch that again. So I remember that film is really impressive. The one thing that it really forged in my head was the ability to be able to tell a great story on a very limited scene. It was practically all on a train. Granted, that's the name of the film. But what it also did was it was very useful of just telling a story in all of the different rooms, and you could really just appreciate the small details and all that. And I probably am not expressing accurately just how great the visuals are and all the action of it. It's very fast paced, thematic to a bullet train. It should be fast, quick. It's intense, but it's also comedic. And then they mention Thomas the Tank Engine. And, well, I won't get too involved into it because I recommend you see it or see it again. But yes, I really have to give them applause for the great use of efficient scenery, because a lot of that was all on just a train. So moving on, like I previously mentioned, to the downfall of the great Taika Waititi. Well, he made Jojo Rabbit. He made some good things, and we can't discount that. But is this him? Is this Marvel just growing stale? Well, let's judge it on an isolated case. We have Thor, Love and Thunder. Well, first of all, you give the Guardians of the Galaxy like 3 minutes of screen time. Well, I get that it's a Thor film, but you're also in an extended universe of many other characters. And, well, if it's a Thor film, then, why is Jane Foster getting so much time? Well, whatever. Their narrative choices were okay. I think, unlike Black Adam struggling with the antagonist, I'd say Gore the God Butcher? Is that his name? That's not a good sign. But no, he led an impression on me, other than his name, I guess. But he was, I think, Christian Bale portrayed him excellently. I think that was the highlight of that film. The visuals. I remember when they were traveling through space on the space goats or whatever, and they were traveling through the Bifrost, the Rainbow Path. That was stunning. And then also in that Shadow Realm, whatever it was called, when it was all in the noir, the grayscale, that looked excellent. Something to always strive for. So I think visually, it's great. The score, don't really remember it, but it did well enough. I don't have the heart to put it above decent. Honestly, I think I prefer Black Panther 2 to Thor Love and Thunder, and that's a realization I didn't think of until I started recording this. So, there you go. Let's see. Well, I'm sure this next one is fairly obvious what's going on here, but we have... Is that Bob? I don't know. Stuart? Kevin? Kevin's the tall one, right? Well, at any rate, we have Minions, Rise of Gru. And I made a whole minute video on how it's prime, it's superb, it's super excellent. And, well, if nothing else, I have the ability to be sarcastic. So, good comedy. I was hoping for more between the bond of young Gru and the old guy that got ostracized from the Vicious Six. I'll remember this as soon as I stop recording. But anyways, oh boy, I'd get a lot of heat here. I have to do this carefully. I enjoyed the film quite a bit. It was a good summer flick, and I don't remember laughing that much in theaters in a while, and maybe that says something about my sense of humor, but I really thought that they did the comedy well. And yes, the characters, it's an animated kids film. You're not going to get really deep storytelling on the character line, but that's okay. Putting this above Love and Thunder is that a crime? We're going to tentatively put it right here in decent. You know what's not decent, though? I know, my transitions are excellent there. They belong in the S tier. But you know what's not decent? It's Moonfall. Oh, gosh. Oh, gosh. I am just becoming a more scientifically involved person, whatever. I'm getting a bachelor's in science, engineering, most likely in computer science. But I say that to kind of reflect against the lack of science in Moonfall. You got the moon superstructures and all that. I thought it was really silly. It's one of those popcorn films. Just the whole spectacle of it, the whole calamity of the apocalypse genre it's worthy of popcorn and seeing it in theaters. The story otherwise there wasn't too much going on. It was all right. I couldn't tell you the names of any of the characters. Oh, I think I would see Black Adam again before I see Moonfall. You really don't need to see that film, but I would recommend it over Where the Crawdads Sing and Lightyear. So I guess the tiers are working properly, right? Oh boy. We have the most notorious film, most likely of the year. Is he Morbin? Does Morbius deserve his own tier? No, I'm the OG to the Morbius group, if you will. Not the bandwagon. I saw it before it was a meme. That's crazy. I saw Morbius opening weekend. Imagine the dedication. I was actually a little bit interested in. Oh boy, it was a bit of a mistake. But I will say, I don't think it's as bad as people think because, well, there's a lot of bad films in 2022, and I know that you see that a lot of them are rated indecent right now, but I pretty carefully chose the films that I saw. And compared to Lightyear, Where the Crawdads Sing, maybe even Moonfall, I would probably see Morbius again. I think the characters are really bad, but I think just the fact that the movie is bad and it really doesn't care about that, I think that makes it better. It's like the adage, it's so bad it's good. So, yeah, I'll put Morbius right above Moonfall. And I know, imagine being the Pixar worker watching this right now that spent hundreds of hours working on the sweat on Lightyear's forehead, and you see just this guy put Morbius above it. Well, sorry. Lightyear takes itself seriously, but it fails in some ways, where Morbius fails, but it's good at failing. So you could get away with that film with some good popcorn, I'll say that. Maybe you need some drinks of any sort, but it is tolerable nonetheless. And moving on, we have a superhero film that is more than tolerable. The best superhero film of the year, I would say, that I've seen at least. I'd say The Batman is really good. And I'm surprised. Well, they did Joker really well, but at that point, DC was still kind of not producing that many good films. It wasn't consistent. It wasn't always an uprise in quality. Like I said, we were coming off of Birds of Prey, and that was atrocious. But Batman, okay, this is the place to mention a score. I was just listening to Michael Giacchino's score earlier today to get me hyped up for this video, and it's really energizing. The themes are great. It's dark, it's brooding, it's vengeance. So it was great. I really enjoyed the detective slant as well. I think the Riddler could have been a little better, but he was still menacing. I think the whole story was great, and then I think there's a scene that I will never forget in this film, and that's the chase scene with the penguin. Just seeing that in RPX, the Regal Premium Experience, was just something else. It was another one of those, wow, these are movies. This is what you really want to see from a movie. This is what I'm spending my hard-earned money for. And it was beautiful. Just the cinematography of that chase scene, the rain, and it was all... It deserves to be an excellent. I would highly recommend watching it. I saw it opening day and the day after that. And it's a 3-hour film. And I would happily see it again. Definitely recommend checking out The Batman. And what's this next one we got here? Well, it's Nope. I think the only horror film, well, it has horror elements at least. The only film like that, except maybe Multiverse of Madness, if you want to make that argument. One of those films on this list, nonetheless, that I saw this year. Hey, that's another thing. Okay, wait. Yes, this is the other one. Okay, we'll get there, the Scream. But, Nope. What do I remember about this film? Not much. There was a dangerous monkey that rampaged a set, and there was this mysterious alien, and it was directed by people that have good credit for being funny. Was this film funny? Huh. Now, this is one of my first impasses where I really don't remember it very well. But I remember... This is a thing. Sometimes you won't remember the details, but you'll always remember how you felt in that moment. And I thought it was decent. That's what I remember. So, I'm just going to put it here. It's worth maybe me doing a little more research, watching clips on YouTube. I know there's channels out there now that just do, like, movie summaries. Fair use, all. Well, hey, if they could get away with it, more power to them. I think it was good, from what I remember. Oh, there was like the techie guy from the Best Buy equivalent place or whatnot. That was funny. Okay. Well, you see here, you know, that's the Minnesota Vikings. They didn't have a film. Northmen. The Northmen, if you were wondering. I remember this being gruesome. I remember it being a great historical representation. Goodness gracious. Well, when you say enough words, eventually you're gonna blank on one for a moment. It was a great portrayal, goodness, of the times, and it was aggressive, and it was interesting. It was interesting. If I don't have too much specific commentary, you know, I probably don't remember much of the film. Do I put the NFL teams right next to each other? Would I see Black Panther again over this? Yeah, I think so, because I think the Northman made me feel a little uncomfortable at times, just because of how aggressive it was, and I think that could just be that I wasn't the audience that they were going for. But then again, I mean, we've been pretty desensitized by all the violence in the world and in media. And, well, I don't want to get into anything controversial. But at any rate, I think I'll keep it here for now. Oh, boy. Well, we've had a lot of films in decent. We got some good films now in the higher tiers, and thankfully, we haven't had too many in Stream It, or just please don't yet. But I will say, Jurassic World, Lost Dominion, the highlight of that film was that I got a free shirt. And that's not a good sign. It's an example of something that just didn't need to be a trilogy. Just like the new Star Wars trilogy, in my opinion. I don't even think that's a a controversial take at this point. But focusing back on Jurassic World Dominion, I remember so little of that film. I enjoyed the second one, The Fallen Kingdom, the auctioning and the mansion. It was more horror based. But this one was just like, oh boy, you remember that big dinosaur in the previous film? Oh, we got an even bigger one now for you to face. Oh, and yeah, Chris Pratt, he could just put up his hand and the raptors will just, they'll obey him. Yeah. I don't really ever have an issue with things being not realistic, but I do have an issue when there's a lot of bad storytelling. I remember the antagonist being very, very disappointing. Well, they were trying to represent like a CEO of a tech company. Well, it's just weird. They didn't come off well, and I remember there being a moment where I thought, oh, this could actually become really cool if one of the workers betrays the people or something. I really don't remember enough to be able to go in depth into that, but what I do remember is how I felt, and I felt disappointed. I didn't want to see this film, and okay, I'm sorry. So this is a typical convention where we have the films or the images in general on tier lists. On the left being the best of that tier, on all the way on the right being the worst. So I would see Jurassic World Dominion over Where the Crawdads Sing, but not by much, honestly. And it's a shame too. A lot of big names, pretty hyped up, but that's just how the Jurassic cookie crumbled, I have to say. I would say Lightyear is worth seeing more than that, so that's fair. So, for all of you artists, all of you people of culture, what's the next one? Well, it's Scream, the 5th Scream movie. And going into January, I was unfortunately saying, wow, this is just the best film I've seen this year so far. Because, like, the only other impression I had was, like, Blacklight. And we'll get there. Scream 5. A lot of characters. It was weird. I haven't seen much horror. I was almost considering directing a horror film. Maybe someday. It was alright. Yes, this is where the needs popcorn tier really comes in handy. Because I think this film by itself doesn't really warrant rewatching. But if you're just trying to look for an excuse to get out of the house, to take someone that you care about to see a film, this is a decent compromise if you have like a coupon for popcorn. That's right. I will see Morbius again before I see this. I guess maybe also the meme culture around Morbius kind of heightened my opinion of it. Just because I didn't think it was as bad, that kind of bridged the gap, making me think it was even better than it probably is. But that will take another viewing, which won't happen anytime soon, for me to be able to fully assess it. So, we're getting down to the last 10 or so, the last 9 here, it seems. And what's up next? We have Marcel the Shell. That's not how he talks, actually. I can't tell you, because it's been a while. This was a wholesome family film, and I will say, it's very impressive from a technical standpoint. I don't remember if it was time-lapse, or how exactly they generated Marcel and his grandmother. But I do remember, I didn't want to like this film. I remember going into it to spite it. I was like, oh, but it was able to make me smile. I couldn't resist. It was wholesome, like I said. I can't remember much about it, but I think it will go here, right below Easter Sunday, because that's That's fair. Maybe there's some genre bias, but I don't think so. Because you have superhero movies in all sorts of different tiers. Animated films, very different tiers. You see the Lightyear versus Puss in Boots Last Wish. Those definitely aren't the same. Anyways, moving on, we have, well, I like this image. I just got all of these off of Google, because why wouldn't you? This is Ambulance, if you couldn't tell. And I think I enjoyed this film more than most people. I haven't seen a Michael Bay film in a while, or at least one that resonated with me. If he did Transformers, then maybe that was the last one. I remember the Last Night Transformers movie. It's like, oh my gosh, when will this thing end? At any rate, this is Ambulance, and I thought it was a fun, action-packed, similar to Bullet Train type film, but I wouldn't I wouldn't revere it as highly as Bullet Train. It did a lot of similar things, but I thought the character telling was a little bit more interesting in the whole hierarchy of the clan, the mafia of sorts in Bullet Train. I found that to be a little more entertaining than the kinship between the robbers in Ambulance. But they made a fun, action-paced film, and it's on the verge of me wanting to see it again, I'll say that much. So, at any rate, that is Ambulance, and I think it's decent. I really do. Okay, The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. Nick Cage. Oh no, I think this was a funny film. I remember Regal was doing a promotion at the time, where it's like, oh, if you have Regal Unlimited, we're gonna give you like a special popcorn and early ticket combo, and it was like, wow, I'm being appreciated for being an avid moviegoer. And I got to see it early, and it's like, wow. The only other film I ever got to see early was The Croods, and, well, that didn't feel special in particular. But The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent was funny. I appreciated it. And honestly, even though it's flawed, we're going based on a lot of enjoyment. If I don't see anything really wrong with it, I'll enjoy the film. And I think I would watch this again. So I'm going to put it right below Bullet Train for now, at least. Okay. This next film, though, is probably the strangest on this entire list. Earlier, I was talking about how Bullet Train makes great use of its setting, being efficient for only being on a train, mostly. This next film is called Fall. You may have not even heard of it. I'll give you a quick synopsis. So these daredevil hikers have been like rock climbing for years and whatnot, mountain climbing. And they come across this abandoned structure that is really tall and whatnot. Pretty simple plot. You can obviously assume what's going to happen. They get up there and then, well, the rising action is literally them rising into the sky, and then they realize, oh, how am I going to get down from here? They make it intense. They make it scary. And the twist with one of the characters, I won't go in depth into it, really shows the desperation of the situation. And there's like vultures, scavenger birds flying around, waiting for their prey, because the humans are weak now. It's just like, how are they going to get out of this? And it's really intense, and I was really caught up and interested in this film more than I expected. It was at first just, I'm free tonight. I saw the trailer of this. It's interesting enough for me to go to see. But I ended up leaving surprised. Like, wow, this was interesting. And I actually enjoyed it. Let's see. Yeah, I'll put it Oh, do I really want to separate them? Let's see. Because the thing is, I feel like I would see it again before I see The Northman. Maybe not before I'd see Black Panther 2 again. Oh boy. We're gonna put it here for now. The decent tier is really coming in clutch, right? Okay, so this next image, it didn't really crop the best, I'll be honest. But it represents the other animated film this year that I had the pleasure, it's fair, the pleasure of watching. DC Super Pets. If you had a spectrum of animated films, the quality of them, you'd have Lightyear on the disappointing end. You'd have Puss in Boots, Last Wish on the superb end. And you'd have DC Super Pets closer to superb than disappointing, but then again, still fairly close to the middle, I would say. It was good. It was nice that there were stars like, oh my gosh, Keanu Reeves, John Wick is Batman, Kevin Hart is Ace. You got someone, what is it, The Rock playing Crypto. Oh my gosh, well, that's the thing. Just because you're a famous actor doesn't mean you're gonna be good at voice acting. I mean, look at the Mario Bros. Trailer. I'm gonna drink some water real quick, and I guarantee you, I will do a better impression than the wahoo that you hear in that second trailer. Wahoo! Mamma mia! I'll get back to you on that. Wahoo! That was better. This has nothing to do with DC Super Pets. But I will say it didn't really take away from the film. It was fine. It belongs in decent. I would see Minions again, I think, before this, to be honest. So, I think right there is fine. Moving on! We have the better film of the year about water. Mostly the better film. Not by too much, in my opinion. I think I just saw Avatar the other day, and it's beautiful. Yeah, that's the reputation they've built, right? But it struggled in one area, I'd say. The second act of the film, when they're building up and fortifying and introducing all of the whales and whatnot. A lot of that felt unnecessary and stalling, and I'm like, oh my gosh. I actually, for the first time in a while, I checked my watch when I was watching a film. Like, can you start working towards wrapping this up? I don't really know where this is going, but can it go somewhere? And then eventually the third act happened, and it got better. See, that's the thing. You can have a bad second act, and it's not going to be as bad. It's not going to be as impactful if you save it in the third. I think having a worse third act is worse overall for the film. More recency bias. It leads you with that impression. Oh gosh, this is the last thing I remember seeing. They really failed here, and they don't redeem themselves because that's the end of the film. But Avatar 2 did redeem itself, and me not seeing the first one in who knows how many years, it did a good enough job reintroducing me to the universe and the characters. I didn't really want to see it, but I appreciated going afterwards. I don't want to put it and see it again, but yeah, I think I would see a lot of the films in the decent tier again before I see Avatar: The Way of Water. I know it's already like gotten over $2 billion. And I want to stress for a moment, just because a movie's popular doesn't necessarily make it really good. Granted, a lot of the times there will be a strong correlation between the two, but Marvel movies are running off of their reputation throughout the years, and I think they've reached a fair bit of a decline since Phase 4. I will give it enough credit to put it near the top of the decent tier. Okay, but thankfully, we can finally leave the decent tier for a little while and go to something a little bit more stellar than that, a little bit better, and that is Top Gun Maverick. And, well, once again, it was one of those films where it's like, wow, this is a movie! Oh! No, but I enjoyed this a lot. I think I saw it twice. Great characters. And I understand now that this was a sequel. I didn't see the original. But it was intense. It always was building towards that main event, that mission. And it was beautiful. But unlike the Avatar beautiful, this movie was not only beautiful, but, to my opinion, had a more intriguing story to tell. More of the bonds of the characters was stronger. And I think overall, it's just more compelling and emotional to me than Avatar was, because they sacrificed, or one of the characters, main characters, I guess you could call him that, passed away in Avatar 2. And they chose the least impactful character from that group. I won't go more in depth, but I feel like they could have chosen anyone else and I would have been a little bit sadder. But the hardships they had the crew go through in Top Gun Maverick were very compelling, and it was very enjoyable. So, I think, and the score was great as well, I think the only question is, does it go in excellent or see it again? And I think you could really make an argument for either of them. Is there something that makes the Batman that much better than Top Gun Maverick in my mind? No. I think I'm going to put it here, though, for now. I'm going to put it right above The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. Maybe, you know what? Okay, I'll be even fairer. I'll put it above Bullet Train. And that's near the top. I think that's fair. The last superhero film we got on this list of this year is Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. And I'm just going to say it right out here. Didn't really do it for me, to be honest. I mean, you have a multiverse to explore. You have limitless possibilities, and Everything Everywhere All at Once really tapped into that. But I feel like this film, although it was directed by Sam Raimi, great, it was still really constrained by the Marvel formula. And there was a lot of places where I feel like it would have been better to go that it just didn't. And wow, you're just fighting Doctor Strange again and again. It's cool. It's cool. The whole Illuminati thing was pretty random. But that intrigue is fine. I think it just really didn't do it for me. And that could just be the fact that it's a Marvel film now. But no, I put the other Marvel films in decent, so. How about this? We'll compromise. I will put it above Morbius. I don't think anyone's arguing that it's worse than Morbius, really. Okay, there's another thing going on here. I will go into this just for a moment. I didn't like WandaVision. I felt it didn't really connect with me. Maybe that's because I didn't see all the sitcoms it was trying to portray. But this was more or less an extension of that. And I felt like it just could have gone a lot more places than it ended up going. So, then nonetheless, give it some popcorn and a drink And I was, okay, this is another thing. I had expectations going into it. I thought it'd be better than it was going to be, and I left a little bit, So, needs popcorn. I think that's fair. And, well, last but certainly not least, well, pretty much least, we have Black Light. And I know right away where I'm putting this. It's not good. It's near the end of, I think, Liam Neeson's career. And the antagonist, man. I don't think it's better. I think it's almost worse than Jurassic World's Tim Cook type of guy. Or Steve Jobs. I don't... This is an action film, if you didn't know. It's not really worth talking about much, but... No, I really was underwhelmed. The story could have been predicted by, like, a 5-year-old. I'm sorry. I know writing stories isn't the easiest thing, but it just, there was no nuance to it. Kind of like the Crawdads Singer. The Crawdads Singer had nuance. It was just bad nuance. It's just like, why are you doing this? But Blacklight is another one of those films where, like, you don't really need to make this, and I think the world would be just fine. But I'd still recommend it over Lost Dominion, the Jurassic World film. I don't even know the name of it. And that really speaks to the lack of impact it had on me. I'd still recommend it over the Jurassic World or Crawdad movie. So, there you have it. That's like 27 films. That's more than the average guy goes to see, I think. I'm pretty content with this. No, I don't think I'm gonna spoil it with the thumbnail, but that doesn't matter. I enjoyed making this, and I think more or less most of these films are worth seeing in some capacity, or at least clips from YouTube. And we could just take a moment to appreciate all of the work that goes into these films, even if I'm rating Lightyear or Minions or anything lower than you would have liked to see. We all can't deny that so many people pour their hearts into these films, and that's really something worth admiring. So in the end of the day, this is just one guy forming his opinions on some films he saw, and you guys, of course, can have your other opinions on this. I'm sure we don't agree on every single pick, maybe not even that many of them. But at any rate, like I've been saying more than I should have today, I think this is reasonable. And, well, let's take a minute to talk about other things. It's 2023 now. I've been on this channel for what is this, almost 8 years? I'm working on some stuff. I'm trying to be as cryptic as possible. No. I'm working on, animation, learning some music production. There was videos that I made last year that just simply haven't come out yet because I wasn't happy with them. Working on, a music video and some art and whatnot. And I want to be able to hit that point sometime this year where I'm actually happy with that work enough to share it with you guys. Because I think the point of YouTube is sharing our passions and our thoughts, right? And news and all that. And I'd really love to be able to do that. So, it's New Year 2023. What if I made 23 uploads this year? That would be miraculous. No, it's not happening, guys. But we can hope. We can try. Anyways, if you're still here, wow. Good for you. Well, stay tuned for new content coming to the channel at some point. Thanks for watching. And just go catch a film sometime. There's a lot of good ones. Bye, everyone.